The House will come to order. The first bill on the calendar for today is Senate File 334. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 334, an act relating to education, the unofficial engrossment.
I recognize the author from Brown, Representative Torkelson, who will explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my pleasure to be on the House floor today with a bill that will modernize the technology that our counties use to administer a variety of human services programs, things like Medicaid, SNAP, and others. Almost 2 years ago now, I sat down with my local county human services director, and she explained to me just how difficult it was to process the information needed for people to apply for these programs and to use these programs. The technology that the counties are forced to use by the state of Minnesota dates back to the late 1980s, early 1990s. Those of you that are old enough, you might remember the game Pong, the green screen where the little ball goes back and forth. Well, that's exactly the sort of technology that our counties are using today in most cases. It's frustrating for workers, it's time-consuming for workers, and it means that it's hard to keep employees in place. What young person would like to sit down in front of a green screen and watch the wheel of death for a while before they can even enter an address the first time? And in many of these applications, they have to enter the same address 3 or 4 times. It's nothing like what they have in their pocket, what most of us have in our pocket, a modern cell phone that you can use to do anything, even buy a house. For goodness sakes, this is ridiculous. It's been ridiculous for quite some time. We did make some progress last year when we passed legislation that's going to update the SSIS system, but I learned that that's just one small piece of what counties use on a daily basis. Part of this problem, we as legislators have created ourselves. We're constantly changing these programs and handing them off to the agencies and saying, here, we've got some great ideas, folks. Let's incorporate this into the existing program. Let's incorporate that. It takes a lot of time and money in order to do that, and those resources get gobbled up putting Band-Aids on these old systems instead of doing the modernization that's necessary to really get them up to date. This legislation will start the ball rolling, and in time, we will get modern systems in place for our county workers. It does take some time, it's complicated. One of the complications is that the old ship has to keep on sailing. You can't just pull a plug and sit back for a year or two while you put in new software, because people need these services on a daily basis. So in order to do that, we're doing something called an integration layer. The integration layer kind of lays on top of our old software and puts a modern face on it. It won't be as good as the new software, but it'll be much better than what we have today. And I look forward to that integration layer coming on fairly quickly to give some relief to counties. Money, honestly, is a big part of the cure. This bill over time will spend $90 million or so in technology modernization, plus it establishes an ongoing account for those of you that are familiar with the disaster relief account that's been set up here in the state of Minnesota that is refunded by a budget mechanism, a mechanism I like to call the Pulowski maneuver, because Gene Pulowski, former member of the Minnesota House, set this up so that we wouldn't have to have a special session to refund his fund, what I call his fund, the Disaster Relief Fund, which we may be using sometime soon. This uses a similar mechanism to that. Actually, it'll be in second place. The Disaster Relief Fund comes first, and then this technology modernization comes next. There will be a $50 million cap on the fund, so we won't overfund it, but we'll have money in place to continue this work down the road because it does take time. In addition to the money and the plans to revitalize this software, we also have governance structure in this bill. It's very important that we get the right people together at the right time to keep this ball rolling. There's an interagency group that will also have half of its representation from the counties. The counties have been suffering with this, and I work closely with them to do this work, and I want to make sure they have a strong voice in the process of actually working through this over time. That group will kind of be the boots on the ground group that'll be constantly monitoring and advising the agencies as they go along. The second layer is a legislative working group made up of 8 legislators across the body, evenly dispersed. That will also be another layer of oversight on the work. The problem is, honestly, that the agencies have had to use all their resources to fix the old stuff, and that is a terribly cumbersome problem for our counties. The final thing I would add is that, as you know, we passed the OIG bill, the Office of the Inspector General. That Inspector General's office will also need software in order to do its work. There's a $15 million fund set up to put modern technology in the hands of the Office of the Inspector General so that they too can do what they need to do to dig deep into the transactions of the state of Minnesota. It's been quite a long haul. For those of you that have long legislative memories, you might remember MNLARS. MNLARS, the driver's license system from about 8 years ago that was in terrible shape. We sat down and did a similar process for that. It now is in good working order, so I know there's a model that works, that we can get this work done. One last point, Minute will be kind of the financial holder of funds. Funds will flow to Minute first, and then Minute will disperse them to the various agencies to purchase the software they need. We believe that that layer of control will help us to keep focused on technology modernization. With that, Madam Speaker, I'll stand for questions.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 334.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Winona, Representative Rapinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to stand in support of this. Some of you may have read that my county was affected deeply over the last couple of months. We were hacked twice. And the infrastructure and the IT improvements that are needed, we're a really good example of that here in Winona. As a representative that comes from a county that was recently hacked 2 different times since January, I fully support this. And I also want to publicly say a big thank you to the National Guard cyber team that came to Winona to assist us in helping to reestablish our IT infrastructure in Winona County. So thank you, Madam Chair, and I fully support it. I hope everyone votes green.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Johnson W.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a very happy day coming from the county to see that this is happening today. Thank you, Chair Torkelson. Thank you to AMC, county employees, county, everybody who was involved and everybody who's looking to support this. This was, when I was with the county, we didn't always feel that we were heard. We would come down and we'd talk and we'd leave and didn't see anything happen or just got more stuff put on us. And to come down here now and see that it's changed and that there's some really, people are listening, hearing the stories, understanding the problem, looking at the problem, seeing how bad that program is. And so this is a great day moving forward. It's going to help your constituents that are at the county level, a lot of people who would need services and are having to work with it. It's going to help with the counties, with employees and maintaining people and saving money. And it's just a great thing. So I really support this. It's wonderful to see. We are now known as a legislature that listens when the counties come to us, and I think this is really a great move forward. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member from Olmsted, Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And about 13 years ago, a group of students in a high school were visiting the White House. They had developed an app. Shortly after that, I met with some local groups that were trying to figure out the patchwork of the system of supports. That was the first time I met Representative Hicks. She was a constituent. We talked together, and there really needed to be fixes. I had her work with the revisers, and we got a bill drafted. And then I got a call, and 24 people from the departments showed up and said, "We're already fixing it." The bill would cause us problems and upset it. So I didn't push the bill. In the preceding times, they have made some changes. But I've talked with Rep. Hicks and many others who are very involved, and none of those changes really worked 80, 90. They had flaws, and it's still a green screen. This has been so long in the coming. I want to thank the people that worked on this bill, because this is what our counties and the people that need the help have been waiting for decades. Everybody should be voting green.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Knorr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is the end of green screen. As we have known, where the county workers are using archaic systems that they spend a significant amount of time just to try to enter one specific case. Just wanted to thank Chair Torkelson for your leadership on this and ensuring that we take care of the people of Minnesota. Members, this is not only focused on modernization of human services technology systems, it's a comprehensive act that dedicates fund, which is the technology fund, and which, quite frankly, I call it Talk Account Fund, because he has been great in establishing a system that funds for the long term, not only for the short term. It also ensures that the stakeholders, the counties, the tribal nations, and other individuals and providers who work with the state are collaboratively working with each other to ensure that the legacy system that we have is no longer the thing that they have been asking for us to resolve. Members, this is a moment that we should all celebrate. It's a moment that will help us tell the story that a system that we have been using for 40 years isn't the best way to achieve the goals of a state government. I'm sure you've had stories from different counties. I'm sure you've had stories from the workers. I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot about what is in this bill for the future. So with that, I just wanted to say this is an important bill. It's an important moment. We should all celebrate this achievement. Thank you, Chair Torkelson, and members, please vote green on this bill.
I recognize a member from Winona, Representative Jacob.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I first became a county commissioner 14 years ago and very quickly learned that human services is, of course, the biggest budget in the county. People were coming to me immediately, our few hundred employees in Winona County. This system needs to be fixed. This system needs to be fixed. So I would come as a county commissioner all those years ago to the Capitol to lobby for this exact thing to happen. So first of all, I want to thank everyone who's worked on it. This has been very needed for a very long time. And also as a business person in the private sector, if you want efficiencies out of your employees, you need to give them the tools that they need to get the work done. And if you don't, you can expect that you're going to be losing money. So this will be a tremendous savings for the state to get this done. There is one problem with the bill. I'm going to point that out right now. It's about 20 years too late. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members, Representative Torkelson and others that have been working on this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The things that we're looking at in here not only modernize our systems and also help us to be able to have integration of systems, it will also most likely help us in detecting fraud going forward so that we don't have the fraudsters out there who are taking advantage of the taxpayers here in the state of Minnesota. I expect that every person will be voting yes on this and that board is going to be greener than a Christmas tree. I also want to share another quick story with you. My mom worked for Stearns County Social Services for years. One of the systems that is being replaced in here is the Maxis system, the yellow screen blinking cursor. It was outdated 26 years ago when she retired from Stearns County, and it has not been replaced or touched as far as improvements since then. As the Stearns County and Benton County folks came to St. Paul to talk about their priorities, they have said year after year, make this a top priority. As a matter of fact, we had a little bit of a laugh with the Director of Human Services in Stearns County when I talked about my mother being familiar with Maxis. She said, we're hiring. Does your mother want to come back to work? I said, probably after 24 years, she's had enough of, in retirement, not interested in coming back. She said, well, nothing's changed. She'll probably be able to pick it up right away if she has an interest or desire to do it. That's a problem. We need to modernize our systems. Again, Representative Torkelson and others, thank you for bringing this issue up. And again, I expect that we'll see everybody green on that board. Thank you, members. Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Bonner.
I wanted to say thank you for all of the folks who have been working on this. For Representative Rapinski, I will also tell you we did have a bill up on cyber grants that would help out our counties and our local entities. While we did not get that across the finish line this year, please know that we will continue to work on that as well. Minnesota has been a leader in the cybersecurity space and will continue to do that. But I really wanted to say thank you to all of the incredible work of all the people to bring us here today and put it in context for everyone to understand. You know, the Governor's Technical Advisory Committee has been talking about how we work more efficiently, how we work better together. We talked about the Governor's whole of state plan and making sure that technology is modernized to actually serve people in the state of Minnesota. We had folks from that advisory council, Chairs Nash, Chair Noor, Representative Elkins, Chair Torkelson, the former Commissioner Tolmes, our current Commissioner Eichten, and Deputy Commissioner Hirsch. This has been a Herculean effort to talk about how we best serve Minnesotans. And when we talk about a lot of the issues that come up on this floor, we talk about how we can do better in things like preventing fraud and creating efficiencies and helping state workers do their job effectively and efficiently. Modernizing our systems will do all of that. How do you recruit people to come work at an agency with a literal green screen, a literal dinosaur on the desk? This is a step in the right direction, and I cannot underscore enough, Chair Noor, I know how much you have worked on this over the last several years and the depth of the conversations you have had at how we create sustainable funding to make sure that we are modernizing our systems, we are being efficient, but above all, this is really about how we move the state forward, how do we protect from fraud, how do we create that sustainable funding. But the most important part about what we're doing today is that we're finding a way to modernize our systems to better serve the people of Minnesota who are our customers. So thank you all for everyone along the way, staff, chairs, agencies, everyone who has brought us to this point. It is a really, really big deal. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate all the great work. So appreciate the work of the leadership of Chair Torkelson. And I really just want to highlight how important this is to really combating fraud in the state. And we are so grateful to our county partners who take this work seriously, and this will give them the tools. I just wanted to highlight two things that just offer to the body and to Chair Torkelson for whoever is going to pick up this load. In there, it talks about that the Human Services Advisory Council will consider whether there should be an enterprise-wide software program for managing these programs. And I beg you to make it enterprise-wide. The OLA and I have been working on that for many years, and I have a bill that would have worked on that, and it's critical that these systems talk to each other, that different agencies can see how one provider has been impacted in a different lane. That's critical. And the other point I wanted to highlight is the Legislative Commission on Human Services has 8 members, 4 from the House, 4 from the Senate. And I appreciate that, but I really would encourage you to add the Office of Legislative Auditor as well. She is integral to this work. She understands these systems, and I hope that you will consider that, members, when you go forward. Thank you very much to everyone who made this possible.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank Chair Torkelson for your work in leading this effort and making sure that this modernization really got across the finish line. Chair Noor, your guidance and direction has always been so important to me. Thank you so much for your leadership in this area as well. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the technology investments for the Office of the Inspector General. The one-time provision of $15 million to improve security and verification tools will improve our data sharing capabilities on an agency-based system. These resources will build on the Technology Modernization Fund that was created in 2023. That technology fund has proven to be indispensable for addressing cybersecurity risks and for improving our customer experience on nearly 80 projects across the executive branch. We know that in fraud prevention, across-agency collaboration, data sharing, and data analysis are critical to advancing the state's program integrity work. The legislature recognized this with the passage and authorizing language of Chapter 13.357. Authority is important, but in order to fully realize the benefits of data sharing, we are improving the state's ability to share this data and protect public resources. And this will be really important to have these new tools in our state system. Further, because fraud prevention is multi-layered, we also know from the research of both public and private counterparts that it is critical to know who our customers are and to be able to verify their identity. Today's fraudsters, as we've heard from Chair Robbins, are really advancing their programs and upping their game. So we know that we will need to accelerate the adoption of the state's identity access and verification tool, LogMN. And LogMN is already proving to be critical to these key programs. The enhanced identity verification tool is positioning the state to be at the forefront of identity services, and this funding will accelerate integration of the tool, which must be done on a case-by-case basis. Fraud actors are sophisticated, and much like their cyber criminals, their methods will continue to evolve. And this funding is an important step to building the spokes of data sharing and the analysis infrastructure to mature our state's posture in identifying the bad actors and taking swift action. Thank you, members, and I encourage a green vote.
I recognize the member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. One thing I might have forgotten to mention is the counties will have their own $10 million fund in this that they can apply for grants from if they have good ideas. I do need to make a few thank yous, and then we'll be done here shortly. First off, I want to thank my CA, I should say, Harry Kennedy, for all his work on this. It's kind of outside of his realm, but he did a great job. Chair Muhammad Noor was a tremendous asset in this work. He stepped in with good information and supplied me with a lot of help as we wrap this thing up. Representative Jim Nash has been a tremendous help in the IT area, especially last year, but again this year as we proceeded through this work. Steve Elkins and Bianca Vernig also had some input into this, and I thank them for that. I also want to thank Matt Hilgart from the Association of Minnesota Counties and Britta Torkelson from the Minnesota Rural Counties Association. I know her quite well. And finally, Tarek Tomes and John Eichten from Minute, who also were great helps in all this. Members, this is a good bill that will move us in the right direction and make it more efficient, and we're going to get better service for the people. And that's what really matters. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, aye.
Momani Hildsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and the title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is Senate File 4401. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 4401, an act relating to cannabis.
I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Hanson J., to explain the bill.
Thank you, Speaker. And first, I want to say thank you to Sam O'Neill and Megan Mollenbach, who were both new to cannabis this year and were staffing me on this. And they were literally my right and left hands. And they both picked this issue up really fast. It's a complicated area of policy, and so I just couldn't have done this without them. And so I just want to make sure I start off by thanking them. I also want to thank the Cannabis Working Group Coalition that stepped up to help with this bill. There were over 80 stakeholders involved in this, and some of us have known each other for many years. Others were brand new to this process, but it was a collaborative effort nonetheless. We met every Friday for 3 months, and sometimes more often, to talk through the provisions that you'll find in this bill. We had a great, functional, respectful, and effective relationship with each other that really allowed us to work together well. They worked hard to bring their industry's perspectives forward. Some of these are small business owners, including general and social equity applicants, business consultants, labor leaders, namely UFCW, a stellar tribal working group, and med combo licensees like GTI and others. Everyone in this working group jumped into the trenches to help thread a needle to create the solutions that this bill will deliver today. So what this bill has done, we've really not messed with what's working in our budding industry. We have tweaked what the industry asked us to tweak. We have right-sized what needed to be right-sized between events and medical licensing. And really, this is a great maintenance bill that I hope you can support. So this year's cannabis package includes a number of maintenance and non-controversial items that are in response to feedback that we received through engagement between the business community, the Office of Cannabis Management, legislative interaction, community meetings, and more over the last year. So this bill includes provisions that supports small businesses. It helps them, allows them to sell non-cannabis products to each other, like shelving and lighting, to help exchange equipment when they need it. It modifies our pharmacist and health consultant and some temporary transporter relief as the industry keeps going. It revives the QR codes for hemp packages that everyone's been asking about. It better protects our applicants' private data. It improves procedures for event coordinators. It has common sense understanding for good faith errors that these new businesses are making. It has tools to help keep bad actors out of the industry and hold them accountable. It rearranges some statutes so that our businesses can better understand what our statutes are intended to say. There's clarification about some products like combined cannabinoids, ratio products, and large format concentrates. There's modification to some investor provisions to incentivize investments and extend some timelines for businesses that are working really hard towards opening. We have some really important provisions in here that is maybe one of the biggest provisions that I want to highlight for folks is providing a bridge to allow hemp businesses and businesses that sell hemp products to get into cannabis if they so choose to do so. That's really important given the federal government's choice to kill a $67 billion national hemp industry, and so this is going to make sure that the cannabis industry says they are welcome here. This also supports local governments. So the clarification that they've been asking for around some of their cannabis statutes helps calculate things a little bit better and clarify that. It simplifies their roles in cannabis event planning. It requires reporting when they do age compliance and verification checks to keep cannabis out of the hands of youth. And it empowers OCM to take civil action on unlicensed businesses that are selling cannabis. And it also better supports the nation's first ever municipal cannabis dispensaries. And this bill is also going to launch the first step of the very popular medical and medicinal psilocybin program with a report to prepare for future rulemaking, and it also includes a directive for them to pursue federal funding to help supplement that. Plant medicine is medicine, and so I'm really excited to get to help in this effort. I want to shout out to everybody who's done the work on this ahead of time, Representative Reimer, Representative Smith, and others in the Senate, and make sure that I can do my part to help bring that one step closer to reality as we wait for the state to secure the state funds for the full launch of the full program. And lastly, one of the most important things that this bill right-sizes and fixes is the industry side of the medicinal cannabis world. Patients have been experiencing limited access on medical products at just a few companies, and these are, adults and kids with chronic conditions like epilepsy, cancer, debilitating autoimmune diseases, and other conditions for which cannabis can really make life-altering and life-changing impacts. This includes kids who, with medicinal cannabis, when they have conditions like this, it allows them to do things like eat and go to school and play and have a normal or more normal, closer to normal childhood than they otherwise would without access to this. This proposal of streamlining our medical and AU plant ratio conversation is not new either. The original laws on the business side of this were always intended to be a temporary solution. We've said all along that we must and would establish a more sustainable solution for the future, and that future is here right now in this bill. Both existing and med combo licensees have agreed that something needs to change, and they have been at the table throughout this process. The current businesses in the medical lane have told us loud and clear that the existing model that mandated a grow and sale ratio was not going to be sustainable for them long term. And so this work to find the best solution has been underway for over a year, and it's been with their and others' engagement and involvement. And so here, with that said, here's what we're adjusting to really meet that moment and be sure that we're answering those calls to action from the various stakeholders there. So the medical combination licenses will be renamed as macro licenses with adjusted requirements beginning on 1/1/27. The godforsaken and much hated ratio is officially going to be eliminated, which will empower more businesses to participate in that medical lane and simplify that process for those businesses, both in the expectations we have of them and the administration. It also corrects the inaccurate canopy estimates that were shared with us in 2023 that influence the numbers that are currently in law right now and in the statute, and it officially right-sizes that number based on actual empirical data and establishes those outdoor limits. It also makes sure that the products that patients, especially children, that they really need are named in law and will be available by other names if we need to expand that on the OCM's website. And it mandates that they be in stock at our new macro companies and available within 24 hours at smaller businesses. And they're also going to be sure that those secondary products are expedited for testing so that we don't see a bottleneck there. It also puts caps in place on these macro businesses to be sure that they are tied to the market need to prevent oversaturation. And it's going to require that any businesses that reach that level have been in our industry and operating for 2 years. We've not messed with, again, what's working in our budding industry. We have, again, tweaked what the industry has asked us to tweak and the community said needed to be tweaked. And we are right-sizing all of these things, again, like events and the medicinal side of things, because this is what a maintenance bill looks like. This coalition, again, has been made up of over 80 stakeholders with these small business owners and so many more people that have come to the table. And I'm just really thankful again to everyone who jumped in the trenches to try to get that done. So I again want to say thank you to everybody, and I would ask for a green vote. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill a third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 4401.
Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's great this bill is coming to the floor. Minnesota's cannabis rollout has been nothing to write home about. Just talk to anybody trying to navigate the regulations set out. It has been absolutely brutal. But this bill does make it quite a bit better in numerous areas. We've got thousands of applications in from a variety of applicants, but only a tiny smidgen of them are able to get started. And one of the biggest barriers for any cannabis business is access to capital. It's a very, very risky business with a 40% average bankruptcy rate of failure within the first 5 years. And the existing regulations only allowed owning of a single cannabis business, and then you could own up to 10% of another, but you're not allowed to have any say in it. When you think about trying to make that industry grow, that's an insane proposition. So the only people who are currently operating right now are either very lucky or they already had liquid capital to work with. So when you think about our poor social equity applicants, they are in a brutal situation, just trying to scrape money to buy. Thankfully, this bill at least opens up a door for them to attract more investment by allowing an individual to own 4 social equity licenses at up to 33%. So they can actually value these businesses at what they should be valued as, and an investment wouldn't be as a charitable contribution, which is basically what it is. It's a charitable lottery ticket at this point, and this makes it a real investment. This is crucial for the many, many applications you see if you look at the licensing dashboard that have been created. Now, there's a lot of other good things, but the worst part of the bill is the canopy cut in the med combo license. Now you hear us say, okay, this was a temporary thing. Everybody knew this was temporary. Well, it's not what the law said, and the businesses have to operate under existing law. So when you change the rules midstream, without regards to the consequences of the investments made by those businesses, well, you're going to find yourself in litigation, and rightfully so. Well, I would agree that eliminating the ratio, which last year we advocated it's ridiculous to do canopy, we should move to a pound, point of sale tracking and manufacturing tracking. The idea that we're going to start this at the canopy is just ridiculous. And everybody knew it. It's a terrible system, but we still went ahead with it anyway. Now we're fixing it. And with the fix, yes, very important, 90,000 is too high. But cutting that all the way down to 38,000 is ridiculous. And we're going to find our state in litigation as a result, and we're going to cost the taxpayers even more money and likely end up where we would have anyway. This bill saves the hemp industry. Now, the hemp industry has been dealing with a lot of regulations at the state level, but there's also the federal ban, and it has been a tough area for them to succeed. This creates new products for them to sell, as well as their ability to function in the cannabis space should they need to. It's been a long and arduous process working on this bill. It's actually pretty large for the last few bills. We're going to be closing out session. But with the changes we see here, we're fixing all the litany of problems this market has, opening up a little more opportunity so that people can succeed and we can have a thriving market that isn't dominated by just a few players. So my hope is, as we go forward, we can continue opening up opportunities for everyone in the cannabis space to succeed, build real businesses, and stop trying to crush them with an absurd amount of regulations and just punitive anti-business mindsets. Because it is a business, and Minnesota is in desperate need of economic growth, and this will be one of the few areas that we should see amazing growth in as long as we don't squander it. So while the bill isn't perfect, I would say it is a very, very good bill with that one enormous exception. And I really appreciate all the staff who helped work on it. It was kind of a last-second journey like everything else around here. And particularly, I want to thank my CA for Children and Families who stepped up to help on cannabis issues, Ryan Woods. And she is a recent Minnesota immigrant who came from Wisconsin. So Washington, which was super helpful when navigating where we're at right now and bringing a whole lot of help that we all know I desperately need. So members, I urge you to support the bill, and we can move on.
Discussion to the bill. I recognize the author, Representative Hanson J.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, everybody, for your help on this. I'm really looking forward to getting this going. And again, just huge shout out to Sam O'Neill and Megan Mullenbach, Eric Anderson, all the work you did. It was your first year doing this, and you did amazing every single step of the way, no matter what bumps came our way. And I just want everybody in the public to know, like, all of us legislators here, we're great, but we're nothing without our staff. And I think on cannabis, that's exceptionally true. And so all of the past folks who worked on cannabis, thank you for being a mentor to our new staff this year and for doing that. So I would ask for a green vote. Thank you.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, aye.
Momani Hildsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 92 ayes and 42 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is Senate File 1943. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 1943, an act relating to commerce.
There are amendments at the desk. If there's no objection, we will let the author explain the bill before we act on the amendments. I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Vang, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this year's legacy bill is the annual funding recommendations of the LaSalle-Sams Outdoor Heritage Council. This bill contains $191 million for the outdoors. These funds will go towards projects that restore, enhance, and protect habitat for fish, game, and wildlife in every corner of Minnesota. I'm proud to say that the agreement we reached contains all of the council's recommendations. We also reached bipartisan agreement on 8-year term limits for citizen members, the council to go into a closed session to interview a director, comfort language on the Roselle River project with additional reporting, changes to the Conservation Partners Grant Program to make it easier for more areas to receive funds. This bill also contains Representative Scraba's House File 3564 for the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission, extensions for the Carp Barrier and the SUNY Lee Art Project in St. Paul. And I'm happy to take any questions.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Schultz moves to amend Senate File number 1943, the unofficial engrossment. The amendment is coded A3.
I recognize the member from Morrison, Representative Schultz. To your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And well, members, here we are again. This is just like last spring. This attempt to solve a problem that exists out in rural Minnesota with something very, very narrow. Today, I bring the A3 amendment, which solves a problem on the border of Cannabis and Isani County, where there is a lack of access to water outside of the Mount Simon Hinckley Aquifer. I have worked in strong collaboration and coordination with environmental groups and organizations to draft the language that's before you today. But the goal here, members, is to provide access to water, specifically for agricultural crop irrigation, to ensure that we're able to grow, of all things, trees, Christmas trees. In fact, Madam Speaker and members, this is an opportunity right now to solve a problem that was inadvertently created, which directly impacts the ability for us to grow the very Christmas trees that oftentimes result in the Christmas trees within this very Capitol and the Christmas trees that decorate the governor's residence. Madam Speaker, this is a solution, a bipartisan, worked out, negotiated agreement to bring forward this solution to a problem that really needs to be fixed for the future of the state. I'm proud of the work done in this amendment. This work actually gives Minnesotans a great picture into the health of the Mount Simon Hinckley Aquifer, which we know is the largest, deepest, and oldest aquifer in the state, providing for incredible water for generations of Minnesotans that came before us and that will follow us. This simply provides the opportunity for the aquifer to be used in this very specific instance where there is no other water, while at the same time cleaning up some old language that frankly doesn't meet the definitions of today. Madam Speaker, I ask for support of the A3 amendment.
Discussion to the amendment. I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And first, I'd like to ask for a roll call.
Roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Representative Schultz. I know you've done a lot of good work on this issue over the past few months, and I appreciate the effort you've been putting into it. I do know that there's a little bit more tie-in that sometimes comes in when we're dealing with water issues, and I do know that the bill has not been heard over in the Senate. We're trying to get things wrapped up, and so at this point in time, I would say because we've got a little bit more work that I think that we need to do, I think this is something that by working together over the summer, we'll be able to come back next year and get this done. I would ask for a no vote at this time.
I recognize the member from Isanti, Representative Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess I'm wondering how many years are we going to continue to say it hasn't gone through the process and it hasn't been worked on? I know you remember last year, like Isaac mentioned, we brought this last year and I was told, oh, you know, we haven't done the work, it hasn't gone through the process, it's not part of the global agreement. Well, maybe we should just take a few minutes to actually solve a problem for somebody in this place. I mean, this is a real problem. These guys have got a farm and they have no other viable source of water besides the Mount Simon Hinckley Aquifer. And we've done the work. We've met with the environmental groups. Isaac has done a great job on this. It passed unanimously out of committee. How much more work do we have to do before we can actually solve a problem? Like I said, a couple of minutes of our time can make a huge difference in the lives of these farmers and their families. Please vote green if you like Christmas trees.
Recognize a member from Wright, Representative McDonald.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I just rise to encourage my members and my friends over on the other side to support Representative Schultz's amendment. God has put one of the largest reservoir of waters in that district. And there's one family farm that creates Christmas trees that I hope that many of us plant or put into our homes. And that water that has been there for many millennials that God put there, the largest reservoir aquifer in the state. And we have one little issue that they need some water so they can water the trees. And don't we all love trees? That's how we breathe. That's how we live. The water is there. It's important to the families that are there. And it hurts no one in this room whatsoever if we vote for this amendment. It helps an immense problem in their district that Representative Schultz and Representative Gordon have been working on for many years. So I just encourage my members I think we'll get 67 over here. And anyone over there, one or two that loves Christmas trees, I'll personally buy you the biggest one they got if you support us. Can I say that? No, I won't. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you as a gift. Madam Speaker.
Discussion? I recognize the author of the amendment, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And while I do hope that you choose to buy or get your Christmas trees from Isanti and Cannabis counties and all of East Central Minnesota, which is a great hub, Representative Nelson could speak to that very fact. This is an awesome opportunity to solve a problem. We can't solve problems unless we work together. We know that in a body of 67 to 67 members. I will just say, there's plenty inside of this that I didn't ask for. There's plenty in this that I conceded. There's plenty in this amendment that was specifically asked for by environmental protection groups, which is great. It's fine. I included it. Guess what, members? Before you today is an amendment that gives you the opportunity to know the health and well-being of the Mount Simon Hinckley Aquifer. This aquifer, which is the aquifer that can sustain life in Minnesota for generations to come. This gives us a picture for any entity that chooses to go through a permitting process that fits the rest of the stipulations to tell us exactly what the health of the aquifer is. Does it have PFAS in it? Are there nitrates, pesticides, or are there other issues with the aquifer? This amendment does that. If you want to know the health of the aquifer, this is the amendment for you. While I have specifically been working on this for 4 years, this issue exists because of something that the state government chose to do about 5 years ago. And so I would really ask right now for your green vote to help solve this problem so that we can have an abundance of Christmas trees growing for all of the ecosystem in Minnesota. Thank you.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Momani Hiltzley.
Momani Hiltzley, no.
Momani Hiltzley votes no.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 67 nays, the amendment does not pass. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Fisher moves to amend Senate File Number 1943, the unofficial engrossment. The amendment is coded A4.
I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Fisher, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment is a technical correction for the Department of Natural Resources. It's for their electric licensing system. This is a new system that they're putting together. One of the things that has been noted is that they've got parts of the system to roll out by the original date we established in statute, but parts of it is not. And to make sure that they're in compliance with what we have in state statute, we need to give them a little bit more time so they can get it all done. And this was something that was reviewed by the Office of the Legislative Auditor. This is one of the recommendations. I would ask for a green vote.
Discussion. I recognize the member from Crow Wing, Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Fisher, I am glad that you're bringing this amendment forward today. It's very critical that as this is launched, as so many other things, that it's rolled out and functioning for the people of Minnesota. So I am recommending a green vote.
Further discussion? I recognize Representative Scraba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're talking about the ELS, electronic licensing system of the DNR. This bill is fine. The system itself is not a well thought out system. I've got constituents, I live in the tourist area. I've gotten numerous people calling saying, what's going on? It's a bad system. I hope someone does something about it, but it is what it is, where it's at. I just want the opportunity to let my constituents know that I spoke against the whole system. This is a decent fix, but the system's not good. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any further discussion to the amendment? Representative Fisher.
Please vote green.
All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended.
Third reading, Senate File Number 1943, as amended.
Third reading as amended. Discussion to the bill. The member from Crow Wing, Representative Heinzman.
Again, members, a lot of work gone into this bill. It's been a real team effort, and I want to thank the bill author for working to try to find a path forward in all of the circumstances that we had to work through, and I hope that we can see the board lit up on this one and get it done.
Discussion. The member from Ramsey, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the chief author, Representative Vang, for the great work on it and the work that Co-Chair Heinzman had done. This is a wonderful bill that does a lot of funding for projects that will help everyone across the state and resolves a lot of land issues that will be transferred back and forth with the state. So thank you. Please vote green.
Recognize the author, Representative Vang.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This year is a little bit unique because usually we tend to pass the Outdoor Heritage Fund with just as council recommendations, but there has been some hiccups and I think it worked out fine. And it's also attached to the lands bill, which I forgot to mention in my introduction. Members, this is a great bill. We fulfilled our duty in the Legacy Committee this year and have a bill to show for it. I want to thank my co-chair, Representative Chair McDonald, and all of the Legacy members. Thank you, Representative Fisher and the Environment Committee as well for allowing us to latch onto your bill. I also want to thank the following staff: Janelle Taylor in the House Research, Mary Davis in House Research, Bragg Hagemeyer, House Fiscal, Cindy Maxwell, our reviser, Liz Matlin and Eric Oberstar, our pages, Amy Zipko, the GOP Committee Administrator, Mike Molzon, the DFL Committee Administrator, Karina Nelson, the GOP Committee Legislative Assistant, Isabel Anderson, the DFL Committee Legislative Assistant, Chelsea Ray, the DFL Researcher, J.R. Swanson, the GOP Researcher. Members, this is a great bill that will improve habitat for Minnesotans all over the state. There is something in this bill that every member should be proud to vote for. I urge everyone to vote green today.
The clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will take the roll on the bill, or the clerk will call the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Momani Hiltsley.
Momani Hiltsley, aye.
Momani Hiltsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 107 ayes, 27 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title is agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File Number 4591, an act relating to state government. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodden, Secretary of the Senate. Nash moved that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 4591 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
I recognize the author, Representative Nash, who will explain the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a very brief, straightforward bill. The Senate put on the amendments that they needed to do, largely global agreement, a handful of other things that had passed off of our floor, but that is my recommendation.
Further discussion? I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you very much, and I would like to begin with just a few thank yous since I didn't do that when we had the bill originally on the House floor. I would like to first start with our nonpartisan staff who worked through the night to make sure that everything was done related to state government. So I'd like to thank Colby Sullivan and Helen Roberts. And Helen, I'd like to give you a special shout out for walking me through all of the interesting math to make sure that we had the funding in the bill for the OIG IT modifications. So thank you so much for that. I'd like to thank first the GOP team of Jacob Grunhauser, the CA, Justin Brill, the researcher, and Allie Winter, the committee legislative assistant. And then on our team, I would like to thank Amanda Rudolph, my invaluable CA, who makes me a much better chair, and Joe Scouten, our researcher, and then Anam Amori, who is our committee legislative assistant. In this bill, we have very important provisions for Greater Minnesota. We have the AMPERS funding, which will keep our public non-commercial radio stations viable. We also have PBS funding for Greater Minnesota. So Pioneer PBS, Lakeland PBS, KSMQ PBS, PBS North, and Prairie Public Television will all keep their doors open and allowing community members to see their communities through the lens of public television. I would also like to thank Representative Fisher for your hard work in making sure that we have the Melissa and Mark Hortman Memorial State Park Working Group that's established in this bill. We also have an assortment of smaller bills. The Secretary of State will not be delivering quite as many blue books as we used to get. Those numbers have changed. We also have state agencies that will now require the summary page, which is, I think, a great thing. John Hewitt, your bill for the state historic site contracts is included in here, and the list goes on. Representative Sexton, your barber's bill is included in here, and also we have the cosmetology bill in here too for you. And members, it's a really great bill. I encourage a green vote, and thank you very much, Chair Nash, for being my partner in this work.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendment say aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by the Senate.
Third reading, House File Number 4591, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading as amended by the Senate. Further discussion. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last day of the session, last state government bill. It's almost as good as knowing that today is Sutenamai, where the Norwegians asked our friendly neighbors to politely leave Norway. Representative Olson. But this does have a good list of things that are beneficial to the state of Minnesota. I will say many of you saw highlight reels of Chair Cleavorn and I in committee. We actually do work very well behind the scenes together, and I appreciate your staff. I appreciate my staff very much. They all coalesce around getting the things that we have to get done. So there's a lot of good things in the bill. Members, I would encourage a green vote.
I recognize the member from Martin, Representative Olson.
I'll remind the body that the Swedes let the Norwegians go. They did not lose in a war.
There being no further discussion on the bill, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Okay, Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Momani Hillsleep. Momani Hillsleep. Momani Hillsleep.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 113 ayes and 20 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by the Senate, and its title is agreed to. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. We're still waiting for some papers to process, so we're going to recess, but I would encourage members to stick around. We will reconvene soon. So I move a recess to call the Speaker.
Representative Niska moves a recess to the call of the Speaker. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The House stands in recess.